you know me. I like my jokes. I like to have a good time. But I'm going to get serious on you right quick, okay? Because we got to talk about black college football coaches. All right? All right. Now that we do have to get into it, I'm going to start with an immortal line from Ralph Wiley, who once said, pack a lunch, we're going to talk black folks and sports. Indy coach Brian Kelly has made one mistake after another recently. He put his foot in his mouth twice. On Sunday night, Kelly took a question about holding off Florida State 41-38 in overtime at Doak Campbell Stadium and turned it into a cringeworthy moment at best. After his team blew an 18-point fourth quarter lead, he told Katie George, quote, I'm in favor of execution. Maybe our entire team needs to be executed after tonight. Brian Kelly, no. First, any allusions to the death penalty in a game played by men who have class today ought to be avoided by a person paid to coach football. Second, a college football coach is supposed to empower those men who have class today, work a full-time job that we call being a student athlete, and do not enjoy the backing, representation, and defense a players' union could provide. Lastly, a college football coach is not supposed to joke about off with their heads like the Red Queen. But Kelly thought he was only being funny with a bit of inarticulate joke theft circa 1976. That's the year John McKay, who'd won 4 national titles at USC, coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to an 0-14 season. That year, McKay was asked about his team's execution, to which he famously said, I'm in favor of it. See, McKay told a joke. Kelly said he was doing the same. And he says as much post-game press conference. He said, quote, it's an old John McKay quote. I was kidding. It was tongue-in-cheek. It wasn't funny. I was talking and making a joke. Are we really taking it seriously? Are you people crazy? End quote. Nah, bro. We're not crazy. It just wasn't funny. No matter how Kelly tried to make us feel crazy for thinking critically about the words said by a coach of one of the most visible programs in the sport. The death penalty is one of the most contentious issues in this country. It's even used to describe the worst punishment ever levied on a football program. We're not crazy to believe joking about executing kids is a bad look, especially when you deliver the joke so badly. Look, I love jokes. I study joke writing. I write a bunch of them for this show. I try them out, post a bunch of them on Twitter to see what works and what doesn't for this show. And then when I feel they are polished enough for you, I deliver them, hoping to surprise you with a punchline hammer so ticklish you can't help but belly laugh. It's why this show looks and feels like a late night show with a quad espresso shot of college football. It's why I stay in the lab, working the keyboard slab. It's my privilege to write and host this show. We're a G5 team that has to secure the bag, and I want y'all to laugh. We all want to believe we're funny. We are willing to make people mad at times if the majority of people laugh. But paralleling poor play execution to actual execution is as difficult to laugh at as telling a death penalty joke on live national television. But the jokes we choose to tell are the truth we believe. Kelly has already shown he sometimes has a difficult time communicating what feels fairly obvious, like that he made ND defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman his successor in South Bend. In NBC Sports' Race in America, Candid Conversation, Kelly cited Marcus Freeman and appeared to throw down a marker on Freeman's coaching future while in conversation with Steph Curry, Dell Curry, and others. Kelly said, quote, my defensive coordinator is black, as if we can't see that, and he's going to be the next head coach. This is not about color or race. This is about things that he just talked about. Steph talked about the important things to be a CEO and understanding how to make people around you better, end quote. Now, I said appeared to throw down a marker because Kelly backed off naming Freeman his successor last Monday. But this raises two important questions. The first one is, why is it a problem for Kelly, who turned 60 in October, to name a head coach in waiting? He wouldn't be the first to do it. Barry Alvarez did it at Wisconsin. Mac Brown did it at Texas, and Bobby Bowden did it at Florida State, among others. Didn't always work out, but they did it. But the other question is, I think, more interesting. Why is it a big deal for Freeman and not, say, Indy offensive coordinator and former Indy quarterback Tommy Rees to receive that same kind of affirmation? Indy has only had one black head coach since it began playing college football in the 19th century. That came in 2002 when the Fighting Irish hired Tyrone Willingham, whose previous stop was Stanford. And that tracks. Stanford has one of the best records in all of the sport among Power 5 coaches, or excuse me, Power 5 institutions in hiring black head coaches. Denny Green became the first black man to head coach a Power 5 program at Northwestern in 1981. But the four-letter network found since 1981, only 39 black men have been hired as head coaches. That's 39 black head coaches in 40 years in a sport with 130 jobs annually. It means fewer than 10% of all head coaching hires have been black men. Just 30 of the 65 Power 5 schools have hired a black head coach. Just 3 black men were hired to become head coaches from 1981 to 1993, and Denny Green accounts for 2 of them. He was later, like Willingham, hired at Stanford, where David Shaw is the head coach today. And just 4 Power 5 programs have hired back-to-back black head coaches. And at least 3 of the 4 are not what we consider among the best college football jobs in America. Northwestern is 1, Stanford is another, Vanderbilt is a 3rd, and Colorado is the 4th, who just accomplished that feat with the hire of Mel Tucker before hiring its current head coach, Karl Dorrell. And we've seen entire hiring cycles happen without a black head coach. 35 Power 5 programs had never hired a black head coach, including the last 4 to win college football playoff national championships: Alabama, Clemson, LSU, and Ohio State. This is important because a large percentage of the labor force who wins those championships looks like me. 46% of Power 5 football players in 2019 were black. That's the largest racial demographic represented. When incorporating the remaining 5 FBS conferences, the percentage of black men playing college football rises to 52%, despite just 7% of the United States' population is black men. It's not a question of more black head coaches as much as it is about managerial representation in a space where black men are overrepresented in the labor force. In a country that strives to be more perfect, a more perfect union, that is to say, united and equal with a commitment to melting pot principles, this has to change. So as Notre Dame enjoys its overtime win against Florida State and attempts to get back to the playoff, ask yourself why Marcus Freeman, who coordinated Cincinnati to the Peach Bowl last year and has been one of the best defensive coordinators in the sport over the last 3 years, is still just that, a defensive coordinator and not a Power 5 head coach. Ask yourself why Brian Kelly was in a position to call Marcus Freeman the next head coach and not an opposing head coach. And then commit your attention, abilities, attitude, all to be about that action. Hey, kinfolk, I appreciate you for watching. Subscribe here and ring the bell so you don't miss the latest upload to the channel. Also, be sure to watch more videos here, like FS1 Studio shows and the best from Fox Sports and Fox Sports Digital.